Old Firm game which finished Celtic 2, Rangers 1. Ruffy, 10-men Rangers trying to snatch it at the end, but in the end, Brendan Rodgers continues that impressive record against Rangers.
Yeah, you have to give Rangers a wee bit of credit for the last 10 minutes of the game. Obviously down to 10 men, they had to have a goal. Tavernier's goal brought them back into it, and the last 10 minutes was a bit frantic for Celtic.
Overall, it's not the best quality two sides that I've seen, Ruffy, in an Old Firm game. But if you were looking for players that are potentially there to shine, you're looking at Matt O'Reilly, you're looking at Kyogo, you're looking at Callum McGregor, and they stepped up.
Yeah, I think there was a stage in the game. I think it was 10-15 minutes. Celtic were very comfortable. McGregor was a big part of that. He was on the ball. He was bringing people into the game. They were getting the ball wide to Palmer. He was testing Tavernier. And then Celtic were in control. Obviously a wonderful goal they got, and that gives you the confidence in these Old Firm games to go on and try and win it.
To be fair, 3 great goals.
Oh, 3 of the best goals I've seen in Old Firm games for a long, long time. Fantastic strikes, the 3 of them. Wonderful. And I'm hoping that's what we're going to highlight on for the rest of the day. Yeah,
well, as you know, from now until probably going into 2024, they'll be talking about all the situations and all the points that they disagree with the referee and some of the decisions. One of them we will discuss, should Rangers have had a penalty? Well, that's a big debate that will rage on. Now, the reason why it really gathered pace at the end of the first half is because no communication was there for anybody to understand that there was an offside prior to Alistair Johnston handling the ball. And I think that really highlights the problem we have with the VAR officials and communication.
Yeah, we've spoken about it on the show on numerous occasions. We would like to hear that dialogue from the up in VAR and the referee. It would save all the really, really complications we have about handball, and it was cleared up later on. But at that moment in time, I think everybody was wondering, is it not? But they certainly cleared it up and moved on.
Yeah. So 2 great goals for Celtic. What did you make of them? Give us your thoughts on it as well. The first one from Bernardo, a cracking strike. The second one from Kyogo, absolutely top drawer. And then let's not forget, James Tavernier, as he does on so many occasions, comes up with a brilliant set-piece finish. We'll get Ruffy's thoughts on the goalkeeper, but I think we've got to really actually concentrate on the quality of the strike from James Tavernier, which is absolutely magnificent. So Ruffy's here alongside me, Peter Martin. You can give us your thoughts, and of course Blair Malloy here with us to give us all the interest on your comments and of course the stats surrounding the game.
Yes, you can get in contact with us by commenting on the Facebook feed, on Twitter where we're live, and also on YouTube where you can leave your comments and leave your thoughts on today's game. Actually, a very early one in here from Stuart McKinnon, who says, "Gee's piece, Peter. These games are never about quality."
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd love it to be. I'd love us to be talking about the quality, but in these games, when you don't have a lot of quality, it's usually the ones that have that wee bit extra, something special, Ruffy, that provide it. I mean, I looked at the game and I thought to myself, Celtic had a wee grip at the start, started to play some passing. Rangers then would have that. As you do in Old Firm games, you get that 10-15 minutes when you get a wee grip in the game, and Rangers had that.
They had that. I thought the last 15 minutes, I think it was Celtic's own downfall. A lot of the passing out for the back wasn't crisp enough. They were giving away possession. They were causing their own problems, and you have to say in the last 10 minutes, Rangers should have took the chances that were coming their way, but unfortunately they felt they were the wrong person.
Now, when we talked about the goals, we've been very positive. What about the chances? In that first half alone, Desser's chance was an absolute sitter, Ruffy. I mean, he's not just taken one touch too many, it's 4 and 5.
Yeah, I think everybody thought, I think every Rangers supporter thought when he went by, and he was on his stride, he seemed to be travelling and it just seemed to slow down. You could just imagine what was going through his head, when am I going to hit it? Am I hitting it now or am I going to wait? And it just seemed to open up for him, to make it even more easier for him. And then obviously he thought he had all the time in the world, but they get back, and it was Johnson get back and put them off. But that was certainly Rangers' biggest chance in the first half.
Yeah, what did you make of the game? Give us your thoughts on our YouTube channel. You can also give us your thoughts on Twitter on PLZ Soccer and on Facebook at PLZ Soccer as well, if you want to give us your thoughts on the game, because quite simply, everybody will have their thoughts on whether Rangers should have had a penalty with Alistair Johnson. It was a substantial amount of time that had passed before Willie Collum and VAR had highlighted, apparently to the Sky Sports commentary team, that there was indeed an offside prior to it, which made the claim for the penalty null and void.
Yep, just going to a couple of stats from the game here, Peter. Celtic had 58% of the possession this afternoon. Rangers was 42%. I think what really comes down to here is shots on target, shots off target. Celtic 12 shots overall, 6 off target, 6 on target. Rangers slightly more shots with 14, 11 off target and 3 on target. It seems to be a case of Celtic just having that clinical edge in the final third.
Yeah, I mean, Brendan Rodgers would have been looking at this game, Ruffy, and saying to himself, okay, don't lose it. That's the thing he always says. You know, it's a situation where, yes, you want to win the game, but you know, don't lose the game at Celtic Park. The momentum, I think, was just swaying towards Rangers going into the game because of their form.
Oh, there's more definitely the settled back four, which Celtic didn't have, and then they were obviously disrupted during the game at the back, so that was a positive for them, obviously. You know, I think Rangers, you know, Woodward went into that game and looked at the Celtic team and said, well, a chance we take something out of this game, not particularly win it, but get something out of the game and keep the momentum going.
I think when you look at some of the overall play, some of the mistakes that were on show in a top-flight game, I noticed that Roy Keane was sitting in the stand. He must have been looking and wondering about the standard of the play in what is Scotland's showpiece game. No away fans in this match, 60,000 Celtic fans watching. And if Celtic got that first goal, it was always going to be important. But again, the cross in, Sima has a chance to clear it. He heads it straight out where Bernardo finishes it.
Well, it's a forward's defensive header, isn't it? You know, if you had a centre half in there, he'd be heading it near enough outside the box at least, but no connection at all. But let's not take anything away for the strike. It was the crispest strike you'll see. The goalkeeper had a lot of players in front of him, saw it a wee bit late, but I think even if he had seen it, he wouldn't have been able to stop it.
Yeah. What did you make of Tavernier's goal? Was it genius of Tavernier again, or the failings of Joe Hart?
I think 80% of it you've got to give to Tavernier, but you've got to look at Joe Hart's positioning and his end positioning, the way he was diving. He wasn't sort of a diving full out sort of a thing. It was just a sort of a token. You know, I've got to try and get this. But no, I wouldn't take anything away from Tavernier. I thought it was an absolutely unbelievable strike.
Yeah, slowly but surely.
I would question why there's somebody lying in the ground when we know. I mean, everybody knows it's top corner, whether it's that corner or that corner.
Yeah.
What that guy was doing down there, I don't know.
Well, he's probably the position I would have been in, Ruffy. I don't want to pick up any men in the box. I'll just line my back. Slowly but surely, when you get the aftermath of it, people now starting to respond.
Yep, I think obviously jubilant from a Celtic persuasion. Paul Brady here on the YouTube feed, he said Celtic back on track for the title, and today it was just all about the result rather than the performance.
Well, is it back on track? Is it a situation where Brendan will look and say, okay, one more game to go, and then start to build the side the way he wants it?
Yeah, I think he had to take something out of that game today. I think if Rangers had won that, you know, everybody would have said, right, that's it, because you know, Rangers are unbeaten for, I think it's 12 or 13 games, something like that. You know, so it had to be
16.
16 as much. I know there was a lot of draws in there as well, but you know, it had to win it. You know, but I think if we look at overall, I think the caller's right there. You know, winning it was all about. It wasn't a great performance for Celtic. In fact, in the last 10, 15 minutes, I was wondering who had the 10 men.
Yeah.
You know, and that sometimes that happens in these games when you think you've got something to hold on to. 2-0, yes. When the goal goes in, yeah, you've got to defend it. You've got to make sure you see the game out. There was everything that was happening just balls into the box. So you're looking for a dominant centre half in there, or centre halves to just clear the area, and it got a bit scrappy, and Celtic just lost complete control of the game.
Yeah. Ruffy, if you score a goal like Kyogo did in 5 asides, you'd be going to the bar with your mates and talking about it for ages. What a goal.
Well, it was a fantastic goal, but when the second half, I was immediately saying to myself, I wonder how long he's going to give Kyogo before he takes him off. Because he'd done nothing. He'd done absolutely nothing in the first half. I don't know if it's the Celtic style of play just now that he's never in the game, but obviously, when you get somebody that quality who can come up with something like that, you've got to keep him on the park.
Yeah, I think Butland got one of his fingers to it.
Nearly, I think he thought he'd got it, but no, it was a terrific strike.
What do you make of the title race? Give us your thoughts on it. Is that Celtic back in the box seat now with a chance to finish off with one more game and then get to the transfer window and strengthen the side? And what about Rangers? What do they do to bounce back from it? First defeat there for Philippe Clement. Does he highlight the problems with the penalty kick decision? Is he aware that there was an offside prior to it? What does he make of his team's performance? Down to 10 men. Of course, we're just about to get Ruffy's thoughts also. We can get your thoughts on Balogun. He was put in a difficult position as soon as the ball was put through and Maeda was off and running. There was only one option for the Rangers central defender. Or should he have taken his chances and let the Celtic forward go through? If you look at Dessers and his big opportunity, maybe Maeda, it would have ended up the same way, because he's not exactly known for his clinical finishing or indeed his clinical crossing. I'll get onto that as well. Blair.
I think Baz really sums up what we're all talking about here on the YouTube feed. He says 3 bits of quality decided it and 3 great goals. And I think watching that game, there were the 3 moments of quality and across the entire 90 minutes. Again, a lot of credit coming in for Kyogo. He seemed to be the man who can pop up with those big moments in games, specifically if it's not going your team's way.
Yeah, Balogun.
Yes, it's a defender's nightmare. He knows the pace that Maeda's got. He obviously has thought, if he gets away here, I'm not going to catch him. So the only way is to sort of, hold him up. And unfortunately for him, it was the last man, and it was a red card.
Yeah, he's not exactly going to. He's not going to argue with it, Robbie, because he's looking at it and he said to himself, "It's just an absolute nightmare position he's put himself in." Would you have let him? Would you have let him go, or do you think he did the right thing?
No, I think the defender's got to actually do something about that. You can't let him go. Let him go clear through. But sometimes you have to make these decisions in the spur of the moment, and particularly in a game of that high profile. Sometimes you make the wrong one. Yeah.
Again, injury blows that come out of these games because the pace is frenetic. No surprise, I think, that Callum McGregor get man of the match. But there was a few worries. I don't think Matt O'Reilly will be going out to a nightclub tonight because his nose is all over his face. He took a couple of hefty ones. And again, Welsh was taken off with, it looks like, some kind of collarbone shoulder.
Yeah, I think right away he was indicating to the physio that it was, and I think he actually said to him at one stage, "Can you put it back in?" But they made the decision not to and change it. Again, that disrupted the Celtic defence as well. But he'd been playing particularly well. Credit to him. He's a sort of a bit player as a centre half with Celtic. But any time he comes in, he's very, very good, and he was a wee bit upset having to go off.
Yeah, absolutely. Narowski come on, did okay.
I thought he was a wee bit slack, at the beginning. That he's only played about 2 games in the last 4 or 5 months. So you can expect that, and it says a lot about players who haven't been active for a long, long time to get thrown into that kind of occasion, in a big game like that. So he'll be happy he got through that.
Yeah, I'm looking at on our Facebook and our Twitter as well. You can give us your comments on the game, and you can also give us your thoughts on our YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button. It was a great build-up from PLZ Soccer this week because, quite simply, we had Martin O'Neill and Alex McLeish giving us their memories of the fixture as managers, and then giving us their predictions as well and analysing both teams. As far as the game itself is concerned, lots of people making comments on various parts of it. What about the quality of it? Man of the match, Callum McGregor, in your eyes? Was there other standout? What about the overall decisions made by the referee? What did you make of the referee, Nick Walsh? Was he one of those officials that got pass marks? Will he call him in VAR? Should he have been able to communicate quickly with the team at Sky Sports to get that information over about the offside? All of these things are well worth talking about in a game which ended Celtic 2, Rangers 1. They've got an 8-point advantage at the top of the table, with Rangers get 2 games in hand.
I think Patrick Harper, not convinced by Celtic today. Still not convinced Brendan is the man for Celtic. Celtic are not nearly as good a side as last season. Celtic were lucky today and Rangers will win their games in hand.
Yeah, Derek Milligan says, very poor officiating. They bottled it big time. What did you make of them?
No, I thought the referee was very good. A lot of the times you see in these games that the players like to get round the referee and sort of sway his decision or put a doubt in his mind. I thought he was very strict. He was very stuck by every decision he made, and just to get away and just move on. You know, we will go on at the penalty kick one, but if Willie Collum has told the referee it's an offside, he might have not told us, but he's told the main man on the park, and he's the guy that matters.
Yeah, I have to say, Ruffy, I think the fallout from that, I'm almost certain Philippe Clement will highlight it, but I think that again highlights the major problems that we have with VAR. Not only have we been bamboozled by some decisions by the referee that have then gone to VAR and again left many of us perplexed, but the communication to get to a point where we're all looking and thinking Rangers should have had a penalty, and then suddenly you're waiting a substantial amount of time before he eventually highlights to everyone that it's offside. Nobody in the stadium will be aware of that unless they are communicating on, unless they're listening to a radio broadcast or go home tonight and think, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about it on numerous occasions, and I hate keep harping back to rugby. You know, anybody who watches rugby, you know, you can see the communication between their VAR and the referee. They're talking to each other, that you're hearing what they're saying, and that would clear things up. You know, I'd like to see it again. I'd like to see where the offside was, you know, because we never dwelled into that.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be interesting to have a wee look at that and see where he thought there was an offside.
Yeah, I think when the ball initially was put through, long before Alistair Johnson got to touch it.
I think it was Seamer that was offside, and it was him that was then in the sort of tangle with Alistair Johnson, when he handled the ball out of play. So I think
See the handling of the ball, it's not like, I keep going back to the deliberate handle. Why would you want a penalty for that? You're not going to score a goal.
No,
you're not going to. It's just an easy cry and an easy shout to get a penalty.
No, but the problem is, Ruffy, again, that's two separate issues. You've mentioned before that people want to look at the handball and they should actually try and get a definitive on what your claim is for a handball if it's intentional. But you're in a situation right now where any handball in the box, people are looking and saying, is this hand in an unnatural position? Has it in some way deflected the ball away from an attacking player's chance to maybe get a cross or a goal scoring opportunity? And then the worst thing of all, in this game of all games, you suddenly get a situation where people don't know what's happened. People are looking and saying, Alistair Johnson handled the ball. You've got a Sky Sports team analysing it at half-time saying it's a penalty. And then at the end of it, you've got three pundits there all looking at each other and going, Alistair Johnson handled the ball, Celtic have got away with one. Suddenly, midway through the second half, you have the commentators saying the VAR officials have suddenly said to us it's an offside. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous in a big game like that where that kind of uncertainty, you know what it's like, it's a powder keg game at the best of times, Ruffy.
Yeah, it is, you know, and you're right, to take that long for it to come out, the information, everybody's given their tuppence worth on it, you know, and then all of a sudden when they do come out with it, people start going conspiracy theories, you know, why are you just throwing that out there to make it an easier cop out and an easier way? But I mean, for me, it was Seamer and Johnson tussling for the ball, and the ball just hit his hand and went out the park.
I mean, on Facebook, Ian McAllister says the handball, it was, but he was offside anyway, dry your eyes. Thanks for that, Ian, but that's not the point we're making. We are only talking about the fact that communication would certainly help the situation for fans inside the stadium, for viewers almost certainly, and over and above that, it would certainly help the situation if you got communication from the referee and the VAR officials so that the players all understand it, because you could have had a situation where those players could have all been kicking off. One player could have been sent off at the flashpoint of it's a penalty, you know, going crazy at the referee. All of these things come into the mix, and unless you are clear on what has happened prior to it to negate any debate over whether it's a penalty or not, and quite clearly on here there's a lot of fans looking at it and saying, you know, get over it. But that's after the fact, Blair.
Yep, Andrew Boyd, I don't think he was happy with the ref or his own team this afternoon. Not sure had a worse game, the ref or Dessers. Rangers need some serious firepower signed in January.
Well, I tell you, what do you make of Fabio Silva? That one came out of left field.
Well, obviously, he must have some kind of quality, and they paid £35 million for him. I mean, I don't think there was anybody in the Rangers side the day would be worth £35 million. So the boy needs to come in and show that whatever they paid for them, he's got the quality to back it up. But you're right, I think Dessers, you know, he's one of these big, just robust centre forwards who, you know, uses his body quite a lot, scores some good goals, misses a lot of the easier ones. So we'll have to wait and see what this boy brings.
Yeah, who do you think needs the most activity in the transfer market, Ruffy?
I think both of them.
Yeah,
You know, I think both of them. I think particularly the Celtic supporters will look at that today and say there's a lot of players. Well, my point of view is there's a lot of, at the end of the game in particular, there was a lot of Celtic players on the park at the end of the whole duration that I don't think the Celtic supporters think they're first choice people. There's about 4 or 5 of them, I think, that have been great servants to the club. There's some of them who are coming into the team who have been out for a long, long time and should have moved on. So, you know, I think Celtic will add more than what Rangers will.
Yeah, Craig Reynolds saying just about deserved to win Celtic, though they made hard work of it by the end. Rangers fan on here says, fair play to Celtic, deserved to win. Kyogo is a nightmare for us. And I think when you look at his goal-scoring record in these games, he certainly has been a major thorn in the Rangers side, Blair.
Yep, I think he was definitely one of the players that was the difference today. Him and Callum McGregor, I think he was the other real standout of quality today. Pat McLaughlin here on YouTube saying that Callum McGregor was man of the match by far. He also offers a bit of... he's nice to Rangers fans. I think he's a Celtic fan the way he speaks here, but they dug in at the end too and made it nervier than it should have been, and that's maybe something that wasn't in Rangers over the past 18 months, and that kind of is a theme. There is a bit of positivity from Rangers and Celtic fans towards the Rangers performance. James Butler here on Facebook, we win our games in hand and it's down to 2 points. I think both teams will still drop points this season.
Oh, there's absolutely no doubt, Ruffy. I mean, you only have to look back at Lee McCulloch on this programme in the early weeks saying it will be down to the Old Firm games, and within about 4 weeks I think he'd been his whole prediction had been shot to hell, because these two teams for me, that's the poorest selection of teams that I've seen in a long time. Celtic's back four for me needs major reconstruction.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Alistair Johnson hasn't been the player this year as he was last year. I know he had picked up an injury at the beginning of the season. Maybe it's taken him a wee while. I thought the first half of the day he couldn't put a foot right. You know, most of the passes were going to Rangers players. Every mistake he was making was nearly getting punished. So yeah, you're right. You know, but I think the positive thing is that the teams last year who weren't giving Rangers and Celtic any trouble have now got their act together a wee bit. The likes of Aberdeen, Hibs, Hearts. You know, away from home, I can see Rangers and Celtic possibly dropping points. I still think at home they're still strong enough to hold their own.
Yeah, it's amazing, but actually when you think about it, the people who watch this game, Ruffy, it's not just a game where you've got 60,000 in the stadium. You've got people in the UK watching it. There's a global audience. There's a global audience of Celtic and Rangers fans right across you know, the whole of the world. Some of them in, you know, bars in Spain and everywhere in the USA and Canada. And you can see on social media, you know, they're all congregating, can't get to the game. They're all congregating, watching the game, and they'll have their own thoughts on it. Some of them elated, and in some ways, it can actually shape your whole mood going into the new year.
Yeah, it certainly can. As we know, in these games, you know, there are classics, there are stuff that aren't as good, but you know, winning the game at the end is all that people will be talking about. You know, and obviously everybody will have their comments on how it went, and I think it was 110 minutes or something like that. But certainly, you know, at the end of the day, there'll be one set of supporters more jubilant than others.
Yeah, Blair?
I think Raymond's having a little bit of a joke here on YouTube. He says, the Celtic board will take that win as no new players required in January. I don't think Celtic fans will be happy about that, even if it is 3 points today.
Yeah, I think we're only at 3 o'clock, Ruffy, and somebody's got the Carlsberg out and they're just lashing it right now, because if I was looking at both sides overall in the quality that was displayed in that, Ian Donnell says, thank you, Peter. Don't forget forget us. We're in Australia. Ian, I'm absolutely delighted that you're joining us from Australia. Hopefully you're enjoying our coverage, because we're obviously coming to the end of our year on PLZ Soccer. We've had so many different programmes, some great one-to-ones, the women's football show. We've also had the journos and, of course, the football show going from strength to strength. And it's just great this week, Ruffy, just before we go back to talking about the game, it's just great this week that we've had Alex McLeish and Martin O'Neill with the build-up, their thoughts on the game. And then we had one-to-ones with Martin O'Neill and Alex McLeish, who enlightened me a couple of days ago that he was going to be the recipient of an OBE, which is brilliant for the big man.
Yeah, I read that this morning, and I was really pleased for him, that he's done a lot in the game for Aberdeen and obviously Scotland as well, so he deserves everything that comes his way. I just thought it was because he was on our show.
Yeah.
You get things like that.
Exactly. I think I might have to wait a long time before I get one. But anyway, 2-1. Celtic win the Old Firm derby. What did you make of it? What did you make of the quality on show? What did you make of the goals? Who was your man of the match, star man? Anything that really irked you overall in the match? What do you think the managers will be looking at the end of the 90 minutes? I say 90 minutes. At the end of the 110 minutes, do you think both managers will now be going away thinking to themselves, okay, it's all about reconstruction now? Give us your thoughts on it. There's lots of people commenting across YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. And let's not forget, going into the new year, once we come back from the winter shutdown, we'll have more programming for you and lots of one-to-ones and a variety of other programmes coming on board that I think you're really going to enjoy.
Yep, you've got Charles Simpson on Facebook here, a Rangers fan that is not dismayed by today's result. Says, you've got to laugh at folk speaking on the radio like Celtic have won the league. If Rangers win their 2 games in hand, it's 2 points of a difference, so clearly hope is not lost.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think there is a situation where anybody who can look at this and say, that anything's done and dusted now. I mean, it will be tight. Rangers can go back on another winning run, but I think the key element for both sides is just get to the break, reassess, start to look and see how much money you've got to strengthen. One thing I think that, Philippe Clement has already got Silva in on loan from Wolves. He'll be looking at getting another few players of his own style to come in. But anybody that thinks that Celtic do not need major construction, I think is just blinded by what's on show at the moment.
Yeah, I think the Celtic supporters will be disappointed if they don't see 4 or 5 players coming in. Maybe 4 or 5 is too much, maybe 3 or 4. Quality coming in. I think Brendan Rodgers has now seen the team is limited at certain games, particularly the 2 games they lost at home. But today, they were in control, but they lost control. And Callum McGregor was pivotal to everything that Celtic done. But I think they need another player like that, who can at some time just put his foot in the ball, and say, look, let's see this game out, because they certainly never saw the game out properly today.
Yeah, the one thing I was going to say, Ruffy, and again, we've looked at it and we try and offer as balanced a view as we possibly can, week in, week out, to the teams, to the quality of the teams, to players. Before Philippe Clement came in, I assessed that Rangers squad and I had quite a few of them heading out the door. I still don't think, and I'm not just talking about today's effort, I don't think Dessers is the answer long term for them. He scored a beautiful goal in European football, but I'm sorry, I just don't think he's got that killer instinct. If that ball had been dropping to Chris Boyd or Ali McCoist in the box at that chance he had, the ball's in the back of the net.
Yeah, you could see that, he scored a good goal and he's come on to a wee bit of a game. I think he was one of the ones everybody was seeing out the door, but to be given that kind of chance in this kind of game, top quality strikers have got to put them away, and that's what he'll be judged on. I think, remember, we used to judge, was it Chris Boyd who hadn't scored against Celtic? for a long, long time.
Yeah.
You know, and now he's got that tag now.
In fact, maybe I was wrong. Maybe if he had fallen to Chris Boyd, he wouldn't have scored, because I remember, I think he only scored one goal in an Old Firm game.
I think the same thing
maybe
happened
two.
with Alfredo Morelos as well. It was a long time.
Oh, it was Morelos
held over his head.
About,
He never done it in the Old Firm games, and then eventually breaking that duck.
right.
I think it was the season Rangers won the league.
But Boyd didn't score too many against Celtic either. He waited a while.
Yeah.
But again, I'm looking and I'm trying to emphasise the point that quality strikers don't need 4 and 5 touches to wait. I mean, if you're a greedy striker, Ruffy, and you're in on goal, I mean, he lifts his head like any good quality player to see who's available. But if you're a greedy, good number 9, you're going in there and you're thinking, one touch, bang.
I don't think he could believe the amount of time he had. I think it sort of it opened up for him more. I thought Scales was going to come across, you know, and cut him off, but Scales just stood where he was. So all of a sudden, he's got more time to think about it, and I think that was the worst thing that happened for him.
Yeah, I just thought it was a major sitter. And when you look at the game and you look at the overall chances, that one for me stood out because it was such a key moment in the game. Again, McCausland had a couple of shots. Greg Taylor had a chance to score, blew it. Bernardo had a couple of chances before he hit that absolute screamer. And I just think from a quality point of view, if you're an outsider, if you're a neutral watching the game, you would have looked and said to yourself, and this is what happens when you score goals in big games like this, Ruffy, as you well know, Kyogo might just be one of those players that the English Premier League will look at and say that was top drawer, not a lot of backlift, shifts it to his left, scores a wonder goal. Could he be a January transfer target? Everybody was talking about maybe Hatate might have been attracting attention for Tottenham, you know, but these clubs have got major money to spend and you just never know.
Well, yeah, I think he's a quality striker. I don't think he's the striker we had last year. You know, I think teams have now caught on to his strengths and trying to nullify them, but they couldn't have done anything about that goal today. That is not the kind of the usual goal we see him scoring. You know, he's got it in him, but that was a tremendous strike he had, and nobody could have done anything about that.
Yep, absolutely.
I think just talking about missed chances there, Ronnie on YouTube makes a point here. Both teams are poor compared to the teams of 15 years ago in this fixture, and I think we were discussing that during the game. There was a lot of stray passes, and you look at the two teams, and there wasn't a lot of quality on show over the 90 minutes.
You know, I hate to be a killjoy in this, and I really want to be positive because you want to, I think, I'm not so sure the word is a responsibility, but I think as broadcasters, certainly written press, radio broadcast, television broadcast, we want people to go and watch Scottish football, Ruffy. We want to promote all that's good in the game, but as journalists, we've got to be realistic. As pundits, we've got to be realistic and offer our viewpoint, our opinion, without any fear of being viewed as biased or, you know, overly critical. I know there are some people who will always just give it to you in the neck, but I tend not to, you know, give two hoots about them. I'm talking about people who can look at a game and be honest about it. I was at Aberdeen against Livingston last week up at Pittodrie. Dreadful. I mean, Aberdeen are woeful. Livingston are going down. I was, again, excuse me, you know, a game last week after that, I think it was Motherwell. Standard is absolutely dreadful across the games. I'm trying to be positive. I'm looking at things. I was at the Hibs Hearts game. Mother of God, Ruffy, I don't know if the managers had said to them, by the way, if you can, pass it to the guy who's wearing the same colour strip as you, because the Edinburgh derby was terrible. This one today at least had the excitement. There were controversial moments. There was 3 top draw strikes. There was little moments when you had some players who've got that little bit of quality that was there on show. But the majority of the players on show I thought were poor. I thought it was, you know, I think we need to up the quality again. Whether Brendan Rodgers and Philippe Clement can do that by the time we get to the third Old Firm game, because they will have a chance to stamp their own, you know, thoughts on the team and the way they want to structure the team.
It is going to be interesting to see what they're doing. We've had Neil Lennon on the show saying January is a very difficult time to strengthen your team. You know, players, you know, sometimes don't want to leave their club. You know, clubs try to do you for extra money than if you're paying out. But I think you've hit it in the head. It's the quality. And I'm not knocking Scottish football either, or the players, the quality of the players. But if you pick a game down in England, and they're not great all the time, but if you watch some Arsenal versus Spurs or something like that, every player on show will be a £20 million player.
Yeah,
or a £30 million player. We don't have these kind of players.
No, we don't, and I don't think it's. I'm not comparing it to English football because I think we'd be doing Scottish football a great disservice. And again, you know, I've spoken to a number of players who've played in Dutch football over the last few weeks, and they've said, you know, you get a huge chasm between the top end of Dutch football and the bottom end of it. I'm sure you get it in Germany as well. I heard a comment from one German journalist who said sometimes teams that just go out and they're beaten by Bayern Munich before they get out of the tunnel. They won't lay a glove on them. You know, and they've had a situation where Bayern Munich have won the title 11 years in the trot. So we can't be insular in our thinking. But I look at the overall standard, and I think managers, I think the league structure, and I think managers have got a huge responsibility in telling players to play a certain way. Today, little shafts of light of quality, but not a lot to write home about. It's one of those games that I think misses the fans as well. God, you know, you need 7,000 Rangers fans, 7,000 Celtic fans. I hate to go on about it, Ruffy. It's killed it.
It has killed it, and you just have to people who matter. The past managers like Alec McLeish, Martin O'Neill, who are saying it's scandalous. You know, the present day managers are saying we need fans in. The players are saying they need fans in. They just need to get their head around the table and work it out and go why the majority of people who want to see that number of fans at that game.
Yeah, Blair.
I think Henry makes that point on Facebook as well. He says it's not a derby without both fans. That's what makes this game. As well on YouTube, Posty Boy 007, get the fans back at these huge games. So I think there definitely is an appetite to try and get the away section, if not back to its full allocation, at least have some presence in the stadium for these big derby matches.
Well, I'll tell you the key element, and we were talking about it earlier, Blair and I, when we were watching the game, Ruffy. When Tavernier hits that free kick into the roof of the net, at that point, you've still got time left. If you have 7,000 Rangers fans there, they're going crazy. Suddenly the noise is lifted. Suddenly, as you know as a professional footballer, the adrenaline can work wonders.
Mm-hmm. Certainly can. I mean, I would dwell on the 7,000. Let's have 3,000. You know, let's have a large amount that would make a difference. Not stuck in a wee corner.
Let's have 7,000.
Yeah.
Don't get to a situation where that's an old government tactic. By the way, I'm not going to give you this, but I'll hit somewhere down here.
But unfortunately, now I would say the majority of the Celtic supporters are bought into it. Now, if you make the decision that 7,000 Rangers supporters are going to, the 7,000 Celtic supporters that were there the day going, yeah, what about us?
Yeah, I don't think the Celtic fans have bought into it, Ruffy.
Well, I think 7,000 are going to get kicked out.
I think the majority of Rangers fans have bought into it, but I don't think the Celtic fans have bought it. I think a lot of Celtic fans would like to see the opposition fans there. Unfortunately, you have a situation which, you know, the tit for tat, I'm not going to go back and give everybody a history lesson on how this started, but certainly in the west of Scotland, where it was picked up on, the two boards, and I think they should write about it in times when, you know, when everybody's got a clear mind, they should write about the two boards. First one to start, Rangers on it, stopping the fans. Second one, Celtic, tit for tat. Their names should be remembered for many a day for killing this fixture. But as far as the game is concerned, I'd like to see more quality. How many players do you think Rangers or Celtic need in the January transfer window? Where in your mind do you think the greater need is for strengthening? Is it for Rangers? Is it strikers? Is it 1-2 strikers? You know, where do they need to offload players that have no future? What about Celtic? Do they need to offload a few of the people who are sitting on the bench, as Ruffy alluded to, who really shouldn't be wearing a Celtic jersey? Does Kyogo need to look and say to himself, I hope there's going to be players of the calibre of Callum McGregor coming in to help him, and what style are these two managers going to develop once they build their own sides once again? Lots of these points which we'll get your thoughts on and read out before we go off here in the next 15 minutes. Give us your thoughts on the game. 2-1 to Celtic, still a title race almost certainly on. Rangers have 2 games in hand. It could just be 2 points.
I think talking about strikers there, I think they've really seen the difference today with Dessers, that great opportunity when he's one-on-one with the goalkeeper and doesn't hit it early enough. Kyogo up the other end gets an opportunity, takes a shot and scores that excellent goal in the second half. A comment here on YouTube, 100% Peter, both teams were pretty dreadful. If Rangers had a striker today, it would have been 3-2. Both teams awful. Not enamoured by the game, but Rangers may have had more goals.
Yeah, almost certainly. But I think, quite simply, lots of people have got their thoughts on the season tickets now and the fans who are now going to the game and are well used to maybe having no opposition fans there. Well, I'm quite willing to take it in the neck on this. Maybe we're just an older generation now who'll be quickly forgotten, and you can have your nice little stadium with 50,000 and 60,000 fans with no opposition there, sing till your heart's content, and lose the joy that we used to have at games, Ruffy, of seeing opposition fans there and what it was really like. And I give you, and I'll tell you right now, it's just Celtic and Rangers now, I give you Lawrence Shankland's winner in injury time at Easter Road. When he scored that whole Hearts End, it was incredible. Incredible, the noise.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I obviously didn't witness it because I played most for the 20 years, but when I stopped playing and you took me to the Rangers Celtic games, they were the first times I'd ever seen these games, up front. And even like half an hour, 45 minutes before the game, it's the atmosphere, the generation, how they had the banter that goes on between the two of them. And that's before the actual game starts. That makes it for me, and then obviously when the game starts, the game takes care of itself. But as the players we've had on the show who have actually played in these games have said, there's nothing better than scoring in front of your own fans.
I think that's an interesting point you were talking about earlier, Ruffy, whether the fans would buy into it changing back again. Obviously, the fans have came in, they've got their seat now, would they be moved? And there's Steve Harper here on Facebook, I don't want it to go back to the way it was. Season ticket holders should never be removed from their seats. They, I assume he's talking about Rangers here, should receive the same allocation as every other club. So the corner and Rangers, but as you say, there might be a lot of fans now who have got that seat and they don't want to give it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck to you. It's about opinions, and maybe lots of fans now just don't want to hear the opposition cheering. Who knows? Certainly a thought-provoking one. I, going into that game, Ruffy, couldn't see Celtic losing it because it was in their own backyard. 60,000, no chance of Rangers getting any lift from any fans, and I just thought, although Rangers had the momentum, I didn't see Brendan Rodgers and the team that he had that was slowly getting a bit of form, Dundee especially. I didn't see them losing the game, and I think that's where he really wanted to probably emphasise to the team, don't lose it, we're still ahead, it's going to be tight, it's going to be nip and tuck.
Yeah, I think obviously they went into the game, the disappointment of Cameron Vickers not being there, who's a big player. If the Rangers team had seen the team lines when they came in, they would have said that's a wee bit of a positive for us. But the boy Welsh came in and did particularly well. But I think if you ask anybody in these games, first games are the most important. First goal is the most important thing in these games, and Celtic got it. And the momentum there, they started having possession of the ball and passing the ball about. And then, obviously, as I stated earlier, the last 15 minutes, back four, so careless in possession, couldn't pass to one of their own players, gave Rangers the incentive to go forward. And Dessers should have scored. Joe Hart had a good save, but he was fortunate he put it back into the area, that there was no Rangers player coming in. So I think at the end of this first half, I think Celtic got away with it. I thought one each at half-time would have been a fair result. And then getting into the second half, obviously, Celtic get the next killer goal. And again, they played well until obviously the sending off. And for some unknown reason, they went into the backward step and said, right, we're 2-0 up, let's just see the game out. And it just gave Rangers the momentum to go forward and throw balls into the box. And Celtic didn't particularly defend particularly well. Yeah,
for the benefit of anyone just joining us on our reaction to that Old Firm game and the win for Celtic by 2-1. It was a great goal by Tavernier, but Ruffy, from a goalkeeping perspective, are you critical? Was he at fault, or is it the emphasis should be on the clinical finishing of Tavernier?
Well, I don't think I'm the right person to answer that one. No, the amount of free kicks I lost. And I always say, people, you have to be in the position to see where you're going to stand.
Yeah.
When you've got that many people in the wall and where the ball is, you've got to say, am I guarding this side of the goal, am I guarding that side of the goal? Because a lot of the time you cannot see the ball.
Yeah. Can I be brutal after it? Can I be brutal after it? I want to be brutal. Explain that situation to me.
So when the only time you're not seeing the actual kick of the ball, you're only seeing the ball coming over the ball, and you're just getting a glimpse of the ball over the wall, and then you have to react. I just think Joe Hart doesn't move his feet quick enough across. Craig Gordon, I think, would have saved that.
Yeah.
Because Craig Gordon moves his feet very, very quickly, and he's got a large stretch. Joe doesn't seem to have that extended arm, but I'm not taking it away from Tavernier. It was a wonderful, wonderful free kick.
Yeah, okay. I think Joe Hart's time at Celtic will be up in the summer. I think Joe Hart needs to be replaced. And that's even with the save from McCausland and the odd save that he makes here and there. But Joe Hart Celtic need to get a goalkeeper. If they can get someone of similar standing from Joe Hart maybe 4 or 5 years ago, which is always going to be difficult. I think Celtic were able to get at Joe Hart because he was at the tail end of his career, and you would get those, hopefully, enough of those defining moments where he would make a top drawer save, whereas a lesser goalkeeper can't do that. So they were very lucky with that. He's at fault for me because when you're a goalkeeper, Ruffy, when you do your homework now, and goalkeepers are far more, I wouldn't say intelligent, but far more thorough in their build-up to games. Yeah. Penalties. Which way does that player normally take the penalty? Where does he put the majority of them? What am I going to do when a free kick comes about? Now, James Tavernier, more often than not, is going to go that way across the wall. So you've got to position yourself. I look at Joe Hart, and I look at the evidence that's in front of me. And when you look back on Joe Hart from Lee Griffiths and numerous other free kicks elsewhere, Joe Hart is suspect at free kicks. And he was again found wanting for me. I thought he made a real boo-boo with that one. I thought James Tavernier, brilliant, deserves great credit, but Joe Hart should know exactly what's happening there. Tavernier, that is where the greater percentage of his free kicks on that left side will go. Top right. I thought he was poor with it, Ruffy.
I thought at the end of the day he could have done better, but I hate taking anything away from Tavernier. I thought it was a great strike.
No, it's brilliant.
But you're saying your people are doing their
homework.
Their homework. Why is the guy lying on the ground behind the wall if you know Tavernier's going to put it in the top corner?
Yeah.
It's a waste of a player lying on the ground.
But you know what? It's honestly, can I tell you something, Ruffy? See if one footballer started to put a banana on his head, people would put a banana on their head. Do you remember Robbie Fowler roaming about with a bit of sticky plaster on his nose? That became a fad. Honestly, people sometimes are just stupid. Yeah. And the one underneath, how many times has Tavernier gone under the wall? I would suggest to you, none. Yeah. He is a man who can kill the ball over the top of the wall.
Hit it at the head, the Griffiths goals against England. Maybe free kicks are his nemesis. Maybe he just can't get it right, where to be in the right position. But as I say, with my track record, you actually have to be there to experience what I'm talking about. And I'm trying to explain it, but it's a really, if you can't see the ball getting struck, you're seeing it so late. And if it's a really, really good free kick, you're struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, we bow to your superior knowledge, having been beaten so many times when the nation was hoping that you could get us through to the next round of a major World Cup.
I think the comments really sum up what we're talking there. It really is 50-50. There's a lot of people saying Hart was awful for the free kick. He's always been like this. A lot of people saying it was a great free kick. Let's not take it away from it. That's what Tavernier does. It's an excellent strike. I don't think we should take much away from that. An interesting point here from James on Facebook, just as we were talking there about perhaps the rejuvenation of the squad going into this transfer window. As a Rangers fan, I believe, he says we need at least 4 in this window, and Celtic can sell players if they want to buy, making the point here that Celtic have got people that other teams might go for. He's making a point here, who are going to buy players that Michael Beale signed, i.e. Lammers and Dessers? I don't know if that's maybe you agree with. Do Celtic have a more sellable assets than Rangers at this point, if they're going to freshen up the squad in January?
Well, for me, Ruffy, I think you're looking at the quality that was on show. I thought McGregor And again, I take a differing view on Celtic and Rangers when it comes to domestic football and European football. I think Rangers can hold their heads up with what they do in Europe this year and previous seasons, because they know how to play at a certain European level and get results. Celtic's results in Europe have been woeful. Domestically, I think I'm looking and I'm saying to myself, the quality that's on show, some of the players need to be moved on. McGregor is top drawer. McGregor, for me, in the last 3 seasons has been the best midfielder in Scotland by an absolute country mile. Nobody can touch him. I mean, at the end of the day, if he walked off the park today and Todd Cantwell had asked for his autograph, I wouldn't have been surprised. He was head and shoulders above him. He's top drawer. Kyogo's strike is worthy of winning any match. It was absolutely brilliant. I mean, that was the highlights for me. Matt O'Reilly, again, deserves great credit. Great player domestically. In Europe, I think he's got a bit to go as well.
Yeah, I think he was missing a wee bit in the first half today. I think the second half he came into it a wee bit more. But if the evidence is with Rangers, are they going to take the boy for Wolves? It looks like loans. It looks as if Rangers are going to go down the loan road to the end of the season. They're going to try and get out of it and win the league by bringing top quality loan players in. I think Celtic will be spending money. I think they'll still go down the same road of down the road 2 or 3 years, that kind of thing. But they do need some experienced players in there to control the game.
Yeah, absolutely. If I was Celtic right now, I'd be looking at 3 of the back 4. I'd be looking at personally, I'd be looking at a number 10, somebody to help McGregor out. And then I'd be looking at a striker. I think O's days are numbered as well at Celtic. So you're talking 4 or 5. For Rangers, definitely 2 strikers. 2 strikers is a must for Rangers, and I also think they need a bit of quality in the middle of the park that can change games for them. I don't think they have that. And all the nonsense in the last couple of seasons, people talking about James Tavernier, and I've heard it consistently about James Tavernier. When they were pulling the gun out and putting players in the firing line, he was well down the line. This guy scored about 116 goals for Rangers. He is not the problem. The problem is the supporting cast of 9 other players. Jack Butland's been top drawer. They need, I think, quality at the back. Definitely need a left back, Rangers. Could do with a half-decent centre-half to maybe be alongside Goldson. Definitely needs a number 10 there. And they need 2 strikers, Rangers. Blair?
I think that's a point excellently summed up here on YouTube. Philippe Clement has been fair with his treatment of both Dessers and Lammers, but he definitely knows that they've not got what it takes.
Yeah, it's not some. Listen, at the end of the day, the proof's in the pudding, Robbie. You can only look at the stats. I mean, Dessers takes 5 touches, misses his opportunity. Kyogo takes 2 touches, sways one way, tips it onto his left, hits the ball back of the net. Quick play, decisive play, quality finish.
Yeah, well, anybody will tell you in these top games and against the top teams, it's the striker who wins you the game. That's why the big money is for the striker. That's why you throw the money out for Harry Kane. It's why you throw the money out for the top strikers. They're the ones in these games, when the games need to turn on a pivot, they're the ones who score the goals.
Yeah, with all due respect, and I hate to shout from the rooftops, Robbie, but as you know, I love a midfielder. Yeah. Strikers are nothing without service.
No, they're not, but I keep looking at the boy, Bernabeu, is that the right way you pronounce his name? Bernardo.
Yeah.
I keep looking at him and go, he's got something.
Yeah.
And I thought the goal today would have maybe brought that sort of a Benfica style, that number 10, but I doubt if he's the guy that you're talking about.
No, he's not.
No.
But again, he showed signs today that he can build again and become. He can do what Brendan Rodgers does to a number of players, which is make them better players. Philippe Clement, I think, will look at that side and say to himself, okay, Rangers have acted quickly, and this is the big question coming up in the next week. How quickly will Celtic be in that transfer market, or will they revert to type? That's the big thing. Clement has got Fabio Silva in, and he'll be looking to add players. How quickly will he get them in that window so that he's got them ready for Europe and for the assault on the title? Because there is still a title race on. 2 games in hand for Rangers, could reduce it to 2 points, all to play for. I think we all agree, and I agree, Ruffy, I don't think the Old Firm games are going to determine the title. I think both these sides are capable of dropping more points.
Away from home, I would agree with that 100%. I think even bring Kilmarnock into that, who have shown against the Old Firm that they'll give them a game, and unless Rangers and Celtic You know, really strengthened with force. I think there's still points to be dropped.
Yeah, overall 2-1 Celtic won it. The first one from Bernardo, top drawer.
Fantastic strike, crisp as anything.
And the second one from Kyogo right at the start of the second half. It was one of those goals that I think killed any sense of momentum that Rangers might have had after a half-time team talk.
Yeah, particularly right after, to get a goal 2 or 3 minutes right after the start, 2-0. You would have thought done and dusted. Rangers supporters will be saying, interesting if it had been 11.
Yeah,
against 11.
absolutely. Balogun sent off, Tavernier with an absolute worldie again from the free kick. Joe Hart, suspect on it. So many talking points, and we have discussed Alistair Johnston, the handball, which, after a considerable amount of time, we were all then enlightened that it was offside from VAR and Willie Collum. Obviously, had this been 20 years ago, we'd have had to have waited till the Monday for Willie Collum's letter to tell us it was offside. We only had to wait maybe 25, 30 minutes into the second half. Just before we go, the overall reflection from most of the fans across our social media?
Yep, I think it's not overly negative from a Rangers point of view. I think it's very clear there's still a lot of time to go this year. I think, like people have been saying, if they win their 2 games in hand, there'll be 2 points in it and titles aren't won or lost yet. I think the last word here to go to PGM on YouTube, who believes that this game today will be a huge turning point for Celtic after some recent poor form. Will they now see them go on that trajectory that might push them onto a title?
Okay, who's going to win the title? There's lots to discuss. We've got one more game to go for these sides, and there's a number of games going on this afternoon that we will reflect on as well. Aberdeen, St Mirren, Hearts, Ross County, Kilmarnock against Dundee, and Motherwell against Livingston. We will continue right across our social media to bring you right up to date and get reaction from managers and players to the results before we hit the winter break, and then we'll reset and get ready for the second half of the season, and then all roads lead to Germany. PLZ Soccer right across the social media. Hopefully you've enjoyed our quality programming. Martin O'Neill and Alex McLeish this week are one-to-ones on Straight Talk that you can watch. I sat down with both legendary managers and got their thoughts on their playing career and, of course, managing at the highest level in Scotland, and, of course, some of the clubs down south as well. You can follow that on Straight Talk. If you're on Twitter and Facebook, don't forget to go to our YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button. But from everyone here, right across our backroom team and throughout the whole of our front line team, which is of course journalists and pundits, from Ruffy and myself from Blair, we hope you have a fantastic 2024. Not too much drink, everything in moderation. And remember, football, it's only a game. Have a happy new year, and we'll see you after the winter break.